Alright, what is up, dudes? It's Wombat, long time no see, and I'm back with another review of this Beyblade Burst Vise Leopard 12 Lift Destroy from Random Booster 11. This actually isn't the one from Random Booster 11, this is just one I've put together with other parts, but they are the same parts. So this was basically only released in this random booster. The new parts were the Vise Leopard layer and this lift frame here, which was later released in Random Booster 12 and I think somewhere else as well, with Maximum Garuda 7 Lift Sword. So let's get around to the rest of the parts. So first up is the layer Vise Leopard. I forget how much it weighs, but I remember it not being too outstanding. It's probably somewhere around 19-20 grams. So about the weight of an average Josie layer. The shape also isn't anything to write home about. It's kind of like round, but at the same time lumpy. It's got some things that could cause recoil. Not really round enough for defense. And it has a lot of the weight distributed towards the center of the layer, meaning that it's not going to be great for stamina either. It's a pretty good raw defense layer, actually. I know there was someone from Georgia/Virginia called Kuma King, and he used Vise Leopard Zero Bump Unite against my winning Valkyrie 8 Vortex Jolt, and I had a really hard time beating it. But that's really the kind of combo that Vise Leopard Unite would be limited to beat. And I guess the only other combo this can work on is the Spice Leopard combo I posted earlier, which is just basically if you put it on Yard and put the heaviest disc on it, that doesn't scrape. So I guess Zero Bump or Double Zero Bump. It can destabilize things like Eternal, Extend Plus, Bearing, and Revolve in same spin. But that's literally the only two things Vise Leopard can be used for. It's not good at attack, it's not great at defense, it's got some pretty bad stamina. I didn't have high hopes for it even just looking at it, just because of the way the weight was placed and the shape of it, so it's not very surprising that it's an underperforming layer. I'm probably the biggest proponent for Vise Leopard out of like anyone, and if I say it's not that good, it's probably not that good. And then the disc is 12 lift. 12 is it came on Hell Salamander and Winning Valkyrie. Basically it's the lightest disc at 16.0 grams approximately, but it can weigh a little more or a little less. Because of that, the only thing it would be useful for is for making a combo where both the disc and the driver are lighter than the layer, which would theoretically make it unburstable, but because the sharp edges on 12 can break opposing Beyblades, it is required to use 12 with a frame, so that kind of defeats the whole purpose of even using the lightest disc, so you'd be better off using Oval or Aero Dash, I believe, because those are a little heavier, but not by a lot. So aside from that, it's a pretty useless disc just because it is so light, and the only use it could be used for is negated by the fact that it must be used with a frame. So the frame is lift. It works a bit like SA-165 from MFB in that it has two modes. It has I don't even know what they're called. I think they're called like attack mode and defense mode officially, but that's not very descriptive, so they call it like, this is up skirt mode, and if you flip it over you can put it in down skirt mode, because you can see it kind of looks like a skirt or a flower pot, and it's facing downward in this mode, facing upward in the other one. Down skirt mode is what's usually preferred. It works pretty well on bearing, in the same way that things like SA-165 EWD would, because it will kind of catch bearing as it falls over. It prevents it from tipping over as much by lowering the center of gravity, and when it does fall over, it's a pretty like smooth transition from the edge of bearing to lift. For the most part, lift is outclassed by wall, but that's only available in the CHO customized set still, so if you need a cheaper way to use something that's similar to wall but not quite as good, lift or turn is still a pretty good option. I'm not sure. People think turn beats lift, but I am still not too sure about that yet, just because turn seems like it would have a rougher underside than lift does, and would not be as good for life after death once bearing finally does tip over. But lift is a good piece, it's just outclassed by wall. It's still plenty usable though for what it's good for. And finally, destroy is the driver. It's the jaggy tip with the free spitting ring around it. It's fairly good for life after death and procession. It will outspin. Mostly atomic is what it's good for outspinning in opposite spin. Also eternal, but it'll lose to things like bearing and extend plus. And it's also got some attack power if you can launch it correctly, which is kind of difficult to do because of the shape of the tip. And compared to other, I guess, attack drivers like Zephyr or Excel, which have a non-jaggy shaped tip, its stamina also isn't very good either. So it's kind of like in a weird position where it's like attack and life after death, but it's also in a meta where most of the Beyblades aren't going to burst, even if you do use an attack type against them. So it's kind of dropped in usefulness, and even then, this is only the normal destroy. If you're going to use destroy, you better be using destroy dash, because the two combos that make the best use of it, which are Dead Hades and Crash Ragnarok, both have some pretty bad teeth and need the Spring of the Dash driver to work. Destroy is still okay, but it's directly outclassed by Destroy Dash, which is basically this but with a stronger spring, which is never bad. So overall, Vise Leopard has some pretty interesting parts. The layer has like a few niche uses but is overall pretty bad. The disc is bad, the frame is good, but it's outclassed by another part that's significantly more expensive, so it's kind of like a poor man's wall that still works pretty well. And then the driver it's kind of like the frame, good but also outclassed. So overall, if you already have wall or destroy dash, or can get those instead of getting lift and destroy, then I would definitely pass on Vise Leopard. It's a pretty unmemorable Beyblade, to be honest. I think it showed up for like 2 episodes in the anime and got broken by Revive Phoenix, so yeah, they definitely weren't promoting this very much. I forget what comes next. It might actually be Revive Phoenix, but I lost count, so whichever Beyblade that is, I will see you guys next time.